Well, take you back to our earlier story about the World Bank's focus for Ghana's economy for 2022. The World Bank saying that the economy will expand, a focus of 5.5% expansion for Ghana's economy, but expressing worry about our debt sustainability. Joining us is economist with the University of Ghana, Dr. Edu Owusu-Sarkodie, with some perspective on this matter. Great to have you tonight on Business Live. So a focus of 5.5% amid external factors, the war in Ukraine, which is rattling the global economy. Not bad, is it? All right.
The increase in commodity. Can you hear me?
Yes. Carry on.
The point I want to drive this with is the increase in commodity prices. Ghana is the first producer or exporter of gold in Africa and number 6 in the world. Gold has been fetching us more than $6 billion of exports. Cocoa, Ghana is the second largest producer of cocoa in the world, fetching us around $2.5 billion. Ghana also produces crude oil, and the crude oil price has also increased recently. Budget was $62 per barrel. Today we are doing more than $100 per barrel. So everything seems to be hinged on the increase in commodity prices. And I want to see the drivers of growth to be from areas that can create jobs, because you can grow your GDP, and if little employment is created, then you haven't done much. So the areas that can create jobs, we know the agri sector, the industrial sector. That is why I want to see the agri and industrial sector taking a greater share of GDP. Then if the source of growth is from these two areas and also the digital space, then we are highly confident that there will be better lives ahead. So I want to relate the source of growth to employment generation. For me, that is the most critical, that's the most important. And according to the World Bank, they also talked about the debt sustainability issues confronting the country. And we have talked about the borrowings by government during COVID and all that, but we also know by the data that before COVID, the public debt was also on the rise. The interest payment was around 33% of revenue. It was the second or the third highest in the world at that time. So the public debt has been a challenge as a country. We have been growing our public debt more than growing our domestic revenue. In other words, since we finished the HIPPY relief initiative in 2006, the growth rate of revenue has outpaced the growth rate of borrowing. And that is why we continue to incur budget deficit year in, year out, and government upon government will then have to borrow the difference between revenue and expenditure, which is budget deficit. And the more you borrow for your expenditures, the more public debt will increase. Let's look at the drivers of the public debt in recent times. We know the biggest driver of the public debt is the budget deficit, accounting for about 48%. And then the second driver of the public debt is depreciation of the cedi, the exchange rate, accounting for about 28%. And then we have the off-budget borrowings, things the financial sector cleanup exercise, the IPP, and recently COVID, which is accounting for about 23% of the public debt. So it is worrying, and we need to slow down the rate of borrowing. And that is why I'm so happy that the government was able to pass the e-levy in a bid to increase domestic revenue. Yes.
Not to interrupt you, on the subject of the e-levy, the report points out that it is not enough to address the country's debt sustainability problems. I just wanted to highlight that.
Yes, we all agree. The budget deficit projected for this year, including the e-levy, was 37 billion cedis. Excluding the e-levy, will be 44 billion Ghana cedis. So even with the passage of the e-levy, we still expect a budget deficit of 37 billion. So it's a fact, and nobody is denying that. And that is why we have to work together as a country and bridge between expenditure and revenue by raising up the revenue projection. And mind you, I have heard other analysts saying that, well, another way of closing the gap is to cut down expenditure. And I would not, propose that, recommendation, because when you ask government to cut expenditure, they're going to cut capital expenditure or the monies for infrastructure, and that's what we need. We need that for our development. So what we should be advising government to do is to be prudent in the management of the finances so that we cut down waste. But for me, the best way to close the gap between revenue and expenditure is to up the revenue generation potential of the country. And this is the data. The domestic revenue growth rate has fallen from 52% in the year 2011 to just 4% in the year 2020. And so we have to do a lot. The e-levy is not enough. That is why there's the need to do the property rate. There's the need to collect revenues from the tax exemptions bill. There's a need to collect revenue from all other sources. And I think it is the best way to go. If we're able to mobilize our own resources to finance our development, it is always the best, because the current stock of public debt is so high that it is impeding growth, and therefore government cannot borrow at any higher rate. The only option, or the best option, is for government to move revenues domestically, not only the e-levy, but property rate, tax exemptions, and then also the natural resources. And I also read in the report by the Bank of Ghana that the revenues we get from the extractive sector is not enough. And I agree. How can a country be collecting 5% royalties? We are the first producer of gold in Africa and number 6 in the world, and yet we collect only 5% royalties. It's a shame on us as a country. We have to increase the royalties. And we have done some projections on the extractive sector. If government of Ghana raises its interest or in participation interest in the extractive sector from 16% to 55%, government of Ghana will rake in $25 billion, $5 billion every year, $5 billion every year as additional revenue, if we are able to increase our participation interest from 16% to 55%. This is what Botswana is doing. This is what Nigeria is doing. This is what most countries, Norway or Saudi Arabia, all the countries that we talk of. This is how they have developed their countries through the natural resources. We need to do something about it. Renegotiate all the contracts and then get the best out of the extractive sector. That is a game changer for the Ghanaian economy.
Yeah, and it's worth noting that the report highlights the weak mining sector, and for an economy that is dependent on such commodities, export of such commodities, it is worrying. It also talks about pressing needs weighing on public finance. Pressing needs like free SHS? I'm asking.
What's the question?
So I'm asking, I mean, it talks about pressing needs weighing on public finance. And I'm asking, for instance, free SHS, something we should think about, we think?
What is the cost of free SHS? 3.2 billion annually. What is the cost of the waste from the Auditor General's report? About 12 billion. So if the government wants to free itself for more fiscal space, I don't think they have to cancel the PSHs. I think that they can, cut the waste in the system, and they can free more, fiscal space for the economy. In any case, when you are in difficulties as we find ourselves now, this is not a time to cancel social protection programs. No, not at all. The programs that support the poor and the vulnerable, and this is the time to cancel all those programs. No. So in any case, the free SHS should have even been the first program to more money, more support to help pushing the poor and the vulnerable. The livelihood empowerment against poverty is another social intervention programs, the NAPCO, the teacher training allowance. These interventions are so critical at this particular moment. This is not a time to cancel those interventions. If the government wants to get more money, they should leave the free SHS, leave the NAPCO, leave the teacher trainings, and go and collect the waste that has been reported in the Auditor General's report. That is my view.
Well, and it makes you wonder if they're even willing to go and do that, cut the wastage in the system. That will be a conversation for another day. Thanks very much indeed, Dr. Edu Owusu-Sarkodie, economist with the University of Ghana Business School. We're grateful for your time tonight.